Hold on to your hats. This could be interesting.
Welcome to TCBI Questions, the show where we ask the tough questions and the not so tough questions totally at random. And joining me today is Greg. Hi, Greg.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to this.
Good to have you. And yeah, I thought I'd call you Greg rather than whatever it was that you gave me to pronounce your name as.
I have no idea. I must have been in a snarky mood. I have no recollection of what I must have put in that thing.
Yeah, and I looked at it and went, yeah, I can't even pronounce that.
I have no recollection of what I put in there. You might have to tell me after the show now.
Yeah. So the rules are that there's no skips unless the question doesn't apply, or your answer will only be one sentence, because we're trying to keep this interesting. And probably doesn't apply to you so much, but our language is okay if you need it to answer the question.
All
right. So we kick off with a starter question. And there we go. What do you wish you had placed in a time capsule 15 years ago?
15 years ago, I wish that I had put in a time capsule some sort of admonition to myself to be putting $100 a month into a retirement plan. That would make a huge difference in my life right now. And I actually tell people when they start working for me that especially if they're in their 20s still, if you put away $100 for every paycheck, it'll be life-changing for you when you are approaching retirement age. And I like to think I made some good financial decisions in my life, but I made a whole lot of bad ones. And it's now that I'm quickly approaching 50, I'm looking at my retirement and I'm thinking I might not get to retire. So we're scrambling to try to make changes in our lives now. And so I would go back and tell myself 15 years ago, some sort of note to retire. That's more of a time travel answer, I guess, more than actually what I put in a time into a time cap. What do I wish I'd placed in? Oh, so it's what? See, I'm completely already messing up the questions. So it's what I put in a time capsule 15 years ago, and then I would have gotten it now.
Yeah, or for other people to discover when they open the time capsule.
Oh man, so I'm just going to stick with the original answer because it's kind of what's on my mind these recent days. We've been having a lot of financial. I don't know. You can't make an investment in a time capsule, so I can't say like I would have put money in because it would have been worth the same amount of money. That'd be like burying the talents in the sand. You'd have the same amount of talents later on. Boy, that's a really tough question when I actually understand the way that you're asking it. Maybe just a letter to myself that would just say what's going on in my life. And so I could look back at it a little bit more honestly, rather than, when you go back and look at photos on your iPhoto photo album and you kind of see everything scaling around, you can see things, and same thing with journals. You can go back and look at journals, but a letter that you would put in saying, here's where my life is right now. And here's where I'd hope to be. Have you reached there? And maybe it would add a little bit more clarity in my life right now if I had done something like that. How about you? What do you wish you had placed in a time capsule 15 years ago?
I was thinking maybe some item of technology or something, because there's so much that we've lost over even the past 15 years. This cell phone or computer or whatever is old, so let's throw it away. But now or maybe in another 15 years, it's going to actually be a part of history that we should keep. And I think people don't think about that a lot. Here's this thing that I have that's 10 years old, let's throw it away, but in another 20 years it might be part of history.
I'm trying to think what technology I had 15 years ago that I'd want to see again right now. I think it's this microphone I'm using.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so I just think that people don't really think about things like that when they're getting rid of things. And things from my past, even if it's just, like a board game or a toy or something that I'm going, that was really cool at the time. And I'd wish, that I could now put it on a shelf in, a position of, to display it rather than anything else.
I do have a piece of technology that, so we're coming up on guess 12 years of podcasting. I keep thinking 13, but 12 years that we've been doing podcasts. And I had this thing, it's called an iRiver. And it's this little tiny narrow silver microphone thing that I used for my first sound singing tours way back in 2005. So that's 12 years old. That's an old piece of technology. And you look at it now, it's like, ha ha ha, isn't that quaint? Looking at that, or the original iPod, those are 13, 14 years old now. And it's kind of boggles your mind that much time has passed since that technology has entered into our mainstream consciousness.
Yeah, I guess that's the other thing for me is all my old podcasts, because I was podcasting in 2004.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Man, you adopted early.
Yeah. But I don't have any of those podcasts anymore.
Really?
They were on Podshow, which became Mevio, and when they went bust,
oh man,
all the files disappeared.
That makes me so sad. That makes me so sad.
Yeah,
I have everything I've ever recorded. Even all the years that we did radio on satellite radio, we have the CDs of every hour. So it's like we have thousands and thousands and thousands of hours, and I won't ever go back and listen to it, but we have it for a family archive for our kids to go back and listen to someday.
Yeah.
When they're really bored and can't sleep.
Even that's kind of a time capsule, isn't it? Having, all the things you're talking about 12 years ago.
I was proud of the fact that our oldest son just turned 17, and I had a laptop in the delivery room with me, and I had a picture. Well, I was really proud. So our oldest son is 19, and I had a web page with photos of him online within 24 hours of being born. So I was really proud that I had the pictures developed at a 1 hour photo and went to a friend's house who had a scanner and scanned them all in. And I was really proud of how high tech I was 19 years ago. And then when our 17-year-old was born, I had the laptop in the room, and I actually had a webcam that was hooked up, directly to it. And I held up the webcam to take a photograph of my son, and I had pictures of him online within an hour of being born. So in 1999, I was really proud of that. And I was working in the IT industry at the time, and his name is well, you said my first name, but his initials are WWW. And in 1999, all of my IT colleagues just thought, that was just the coolest thing in the world, that I intentionally gave a kid the initials WWW. Now that doesn't really mean anything, but so a time capsule of our family history. I mean, we were doing it. The internet really is its own time machine in many ways.
Yeah, that's with me, looking at kids in the next 5 to 10 years, and that there's no way that it's not going to be documented to just to a crazy degree because of the internet. And I have lots of photos even from when I was, just born, but it's not going to be the same. But then you also have what are your kids going to think? Are those photos still online?
It's like all the evidence that you could hold against them.
Yeah, great for 21st today.
Yeah. All right. So here's a question for you. What's your favorite room in your home and why?
I think it has to be this one, which is my podcast studio, because I really enjoy, all the people that I get to talk to and all the technology that surrounds me. I'm definitely a technology person, and just having all the audio gear and the microphones and everything like that. More the people. The podcasting's connecting me with a lot of interesting people like yourself and Cliff Ravenscraft and people like that. And getting to talk to them and, ask these kind of questions is really interesting.
Yeah. So now I answer the same question, correct?
Yeah.
So for me, and this is a fairly new house that we're in. We just moved into this house just around half a year ago. And for me, it's definitely, there's a unfinished basement in the house. And there's a corner of the basement that's mine, and I have my desk down there that's covered in paint splatter. And I like to do a lot of painting just as a hobby. And I have an old iMac that was my parents' first iMac, and I repurposed it as a Google Chromebook. And so the only real use for this old iMac, which I wiped it out and put the Google Chrome operating system on it, is I can get Spotify. And so it's just a really, really fancy Spotify player. That's what it is. So I got it propped up on top of this desk, and I go down there and I crank up some playlists and I'll start painting down there. But then I also started doing other things. Like I've started cutting glass liquor or wine bottles and then sanding them down and turning them into drinking glasses just for fun. And it's my place to go down. And when I'm down there, it is my solitary spot. And I people may stop in and look at what I'm working on, but they don't stay very long. The kids, my daughter likes to come down and play with games on the floor or read books or whatever while I'm in there, but it still feels very solitary. It's my time to be alone and be quiet. And I had a similar place in our previous home. And it's just something that I really treasure, even though it's not fancy. It's, cold floors and, concrete everywhere. And it's kind of ugly, quite honestly, but it's my favorite spot in the house is that corner. I won't even claim the whole room, just that one corner.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Yeah, I guess this is kind of my solitary space as well, because I spend so much time doing prep.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you know as well.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. What's the best way to resist peer pressure?
I think the best way to resist peer pressure is to be confident in yourself and to just know that you're the way that you are for a reason, that even if you have a lot of weaknesses and if you're pretty imperfect and the things that you try to do, that you're trying and you're trying to be as the best version of yourself as you possibly can. And you don't really need other people to tell you how to be. That within us, we have, I believe, somewhat of a compass that's guiding us to rightness, and not our attitude or our opinions are right, but there's a moral and a natural law, I believe. And I think that peer pressure oftentimes makes us do things that are contrary to those things, and we have more peace and we have more confidence and just more happiness, I think, when we do things because we've made that conscious decision without the pressure that this is the best thing that's going to help me be a better person. And when we give into peer pressure, oftentimes that's when we make mistakes and we're not our true selves. And I think that even if you are full of weaknesses, and I'm very full of a lot of weaknesses, that I don't need someone else to help me make mistakes. I'm going to make enough mistakes on my own. So it's like the best way to resist peer pressure is just to have enough confidence in yourself to say that I don't have to go along with it. And saying no is always an option. And I never have to do something because I'm being pressured to do it. And I have to do something that it's not like in a relativistic happiness way. Like I have to do what keeps me happy, because what keeps me happy might hurt someone else. And that's not what I'm saying. But there's a certain level of you need to know who you are, and you need to accept who you are, weaknesses and all. And when you can do that, it's resisting peer pressure is not an overly difficult thing to do. And quite honestly, I've learned in just recent years of saying to people, here's a form of peer pressure. I don't really like going to people's homes for dinner, and people show an enormous amount of hospitality, but I'm always uncomfortable. I don't like it. I feel like the idle chit chat is very difficult for me, especially when there's one-on-one is easy, I think. But it's when I'm going to someone's house, I almost feel like, okay, now here he is, be on and be this fake person. And I actually a few years ago, and it was very difficult because we get people calling into our podcast and leave voicemail, and I'll play the voicemail. They're like, hey, we want you to go out for dinner. And I would just say, no, thank you, but we're not going to do that because I've done that enough in my life, and I'm not going to give into this weird pressure to do something I just don't want to do. So it's a long answer for basically just be yourself and don't do it if you don't want to do it. So how about you? What's the best way that you would say to resist peer pressure?
Yeah, no, I pretty much totally agree with you there. I'm just thinking about, I have a lot of friends that are, teenagers, and I think it's a lot harder for them because they may not know who they are yet. So I think, your words are very wise, but I also think that comes with age. I think a lot of my
What are you saying, Dan? What are you suggesting? Age? No. I didn't say I have a 19, almost 20-year-old son. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I remember being told those things as a teenager, and you go, well, that's all well and good, but at school, that's not quite as easy to do because, if you don't give into it in some degree, you may end up with no friends. Though now I say if you shouldn't have, those are the people that you don't want to be friends with, if you have to conform to them to be friends with them. But it's not, I remember very clearly it not being that easy at high school because you want to have friends, and the prospect of having no friends is in some cases worse than, not entirely being true to yourself by doing, falling in with the crowd.
Yeah, I have a lot of friendships from my past that I wish I never had.
Yeah, absolutely. That, comes with, becoming sure of yourself. That you can go, well, actually, you're not a good friend for me, so I'm going to avoid this relationship if I can.
Well, I mean, it really kind of goes back to, and it sounds self-serving, but when you meet someone, it's not what can this person do for me, but how is this person going to help me to become a better person, not a wealthier person, or someone who has more possessions, or it's not a matter of trying to get something, but iron sharpens iron. We should surround ourselves with people who are going to challenge us, not pressure us, but challenge us to be better people, to make us question the things that are important, so that ultimately we're at the service of others in this world.
Yeah, Cliff Ravenscraft says you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and that's definitely very true.
And that's such a wounding statement. I mean, in all the good ways, it's a wounding statement. But it's like, yeah, it's absolutely true.
Yeah,
well, I'm gonna have to go talk to my wife and say, honey, I got to tell you, you're one of the 5 people I hang out with, so it's time to ramp up your averages here.
But then is that a kind of indirect peer pressure that the people that are around you shape you? Because peer pressure, I guess, could it be a positive thing as well?
It is if you choose the right people. It's not peer pressure. It's you seeking out that being a better person. It's you're seeking out. Our lives should be full. Our lives should be rich, and again, not in the financial sense. Our lives should be fruitful, and when we are that way, we are better influences on other people. So it makes sense that you would want to surround yourself. I mean, that's like, I know we don't want to get into the religious topics, but it'd be like saying to the apostles, yeah, don't surround yourself by people like Jesus, because he might like be peer pressuring you into doing something that you don't want to do. It's like, no, he made them better,
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. If you could look into the future to find out one thing, what would you want to know?
My immediate thought was to find out if, the suffering had been eliminated, mental illness and poverty and all that kind of thing. But if I got there and found out that it hadn't, I don't know if I would be a very happy person. I guess not knowing gives you the hope that things will be better. But because if you found out that it will be better, then that would give you more hope. But if it was the opposite, then it would be crushing, I guess. So I'm not sure if I'd actually I can't think of anything that I could look into the future and find out that wouldn't be a risk. Because if it's a positive answer, then great, I'm sorted. But if it's a negative answer, then I don't want that future to come about. And then you start talking about paradoxes and can you change the future once you know it? It would be it's not the kind of position I think I'd want to put myself into, because you try, the future and you try and change it, but depending on which theory you ascribe to, it may happen anyway.
I wasn't thinking about it in some global way like what you suggested, though that's really intriguing. It has never occurred to me to wonder if mental illness will ever be able to be eradicated, but that's actually a fascinating thought to think that it could be. And it's actually kind of a hopeful thought to think that it could be, because so many people suffer from that. That's actually, I honestly, I've never ever considered that as a possibility. So that's kind of a fascinating thing to mull over. For me, I mean, when I read that question, I thought of a completely selfish answer. I've always loved writing fiction my entire life. My lifelong ambition and dream would be to be a best-selling novelist. I write books, and I've had books published, and I have another one coming out in a couple months, and that's nice, and it's gratifying, and it's fulfilling. And they're nonfiction books that I believe help people. But I love writing fiction, and when I write fiction, it feeds such a deep part of my soul. And I finished my second novel. I've written 3 complete novels. Not a one of them have I found an agent that would then represent to one of the big publishers. And I have not yet gotten to the point where I want to self-publish, because self-publishing isn't just writing. It's a matter of, there's a tremendous amount of marketing and everything else. And I just don't want to deal with that. And that's really my big holdup, is like, that's fine. I could self-publish it, put it out there, and my mom's going to ask for a free copy, and maybe 3 other people will buy it. Because I'm not going to market it. I just don't. If I had a big publisher backing me up, and that's one thing. But the second novel that I wrote, which I finished in 2000, I sent it out and I got 150 rejections on it.
Wow.
But I quit writing for about 10 years after that, and I started writing again a few years ago. And I wrote another one that I finished last year. And I got 50. Well, I got 50 rejections on it. I actually got officially only 15 responses, but I sent out 50 queries and only got 15 responses. And I got a couple of nibbles from agents, but they ultimately ended up passing. And I could go back and try it again. But the answer of what I would want to find out is, do I ever sell a novel, and is it successful? Because it's something that's kind of haunted me. And sometimes it's a battle, because I lose the enjoyment of the process of writing fiction, because I can't help but daydream what would happen if I sold a novel, and if that novel did well, and so well that they wanted to turn it into a movie or a limited series on Amazon Prime. I mean, and next thing I know, I'm like 20 layers down, and I'm signing multi-million-dollar contract, and it's like, just, do I ever sell the stupid thing, and does it do well? And that's honestly the only thing. It is something that has haunted me since 2000, and when I had the first batch of rejections.
Yeah.
So I'm on 17 years now, man. But I'm just like, I'm tired of that question. Oh, I would rather no, Greg, it never happens, and it's okay, and just settle down and just go enjoy your craft, and just go do it for your own enjoyment, because it's so hard to write a 400-page novel, write 100,000 words on something, and it's just sitting there as zeros and ones on my hard drive. And it's like, boy, did I just waste a big part of my life manufacturing fake people, just so they could sit there on my hard drive. But it's what I've learned in the last several years is there's a lot more to it than that. There's a part, going back to, discovering who you really are. There's a part of me that I have to create. I have to do something, even if I can't turn it into a job, even if I can't support myself and my family doing it. I need to carve out the time that it's going to feed me. And I've quite honestly, I've thrown away opportunities to make money so that I can do creative things. I could be spending my evenings, doing passive income streams and all that kind of stuff, but I prefer to go downstairs and put paint on a canvas for something that's might hang in my bathroom. It's like, but I need to do that. I need to feed that part of myself.
If you had the ability to compete in the Olympics, what event would you want to be in?
Scotch drinking. Oh, is that not an event? I'd want to. That should be an event. If I had the ability, if I had the physical ability to compete in the Olympics, what event would I want to be in? Yeah, I've never been overly athletic. I enjoy running to an extent. I've never done it competitively. Again, I'm very solitary in a lot of my activities that I choose to do. So something like probably running or something like that. Though there was a time in my life where I enjoyed basketball, and I'm pretty tall, but I never was overly good at it. I don't know if going back to being a true part of myself, I don't know if I would enjoy competing. It's not the lack of ability, it's the lack of desire to compete. And that's wow, that's really kind of amazing. I think I would enjoy the ability to be a fast runner. I think that would be kind of cool. But then when someone says you're fast enough to win the Olympics, oh, well, that's okay. I just wanted to, I could run to the store really fast. It's like, run, Greg, run. I mean, I'd rather just have the ability, but not necessarily compete. Oh, fencing. I've always wanted to learn to fence. You know what? Forget the running thing. That's the answer right there. Fencing. That's it. I've always wanted to try that out. How about you? If you had the ability to compete in the Olympics, what event would you want to be in?
Yeah, running was what I thought of as well, but running's over so quickly. Like, like 100-meter race is over in, under 10 seconds.
Oh, I was thinking marathon. I was thinking long. I was thinking really long.
Yeah, as I remember reading, people talking about how big the queues were to get in to watch some of the events. And if you were, 10 seconds late, you've missed the whole race.
Guess what event I got to go see when the Olympics were in Atlanta, where I was living in '96?
Running.
What you just described.
Yeah.
All that money, all that work, sit in the seat, gun goes off. Oh, that was fun. There's the Olympics for you. So.
Yeah, and you spend a couple of hours trying to get in and get to your seat, and then it's over.
Yep. That's it.
I'm not sure that I would, I guess, bother for something that short. You'd want to actually, get there and, be able to spend the time and soak in the atmosphere and everything like that. And I don't know how much you could do that with a 10-second race.
I don't know if you've ever heard this. I don't know if this is the case with all Olympic sites, but it was the case in Atlanta in '96 that when the tickets were going on sale, it was a big deal, and everyone in Atlanta was trying to get tickets. And you had this very detailed order form that you filled out with the preference of the events that you wanted. And then you had to send them the money for the tickets. And then you may not get the tickets. And then they would refund the money if you requested the money back. Oh, wow. Otherwise, they would have considered it like a donation to the Olympic Committee. And then it was like a year later before you would find out if you got the ticket. So basically, you're sending them money to give them a 1-year loan that they could take that money and put it and use it however they wanted. They could invest it and make interest off of the collective amount of money that's sent in. And boy, that rubbed me wrong so much back in '96, or actually '95, going into '96 when we were living in Atlanta at the time. Anyway, that's just there's an aside that hopefully could be interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if that's still the case now that, you have all the technology that could probably manage it a bit better. So, having to send them a form is, very much the, what you had to do in the 90s without the technology, but you'd hope that it would be better now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. Don't think the Olympics will ever come to New Zealand somehow.
Is it more important? This is like, remember how to ask this like Billy Crystal. He used to have a Saturday Night Live character that asked this question. Is it more important to look, is it more important to you to look good or feel good?
Feel good.
Because you look marvelous. I don't know if you remember that character. I don't know if you remember that character or not.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Look
feel good?
Oh, feel good.
Yeah. Feel good. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Looking good is for other people and feeling good is for you. So yeah, I'm gonna be selfish with that one.
Wait, looking good is for that's spot on, man. Yeah. That's exactly it. I don't tend to spend an enormous amount of time looking at myself in the mirror, even though, how do I resist? I don't know. But but yeah, I would rather not have achy knees, and I would rather not have to take a heartburn pill every day. I would rather just feel good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, I guess I was thinking both, physically and mentally as well. It's all the stuff that's inside that actually affects your life. It comes back to the peer pressure thing as well, I guess, is that, looking good for other people in most cases, though, I guess. In some cases, putting on a suit and looking really sharp can make you feel good as well.
Yeah, but sometimes it's only a mask, Sure. When you talk about the mental stuff again, it's, if if you're sad, put on the suit, might feel good for a while. You might smile for a few hours, but you come back and there's something at the core that's making you sad that you're going to have to encounter that thing again, whether you're looking in a mirror or not. So I agree completely. I'd rather feel good. And again, you brought up an interesting point. And, when you think about the junk going up in your noggin, it's not just about the body, but it's about the mind as well.
Yeah, as you can tell, mental illness is something that is near and dear to my heart. I spend a lot of time helping friends and things like that. What was the best bargain you ever found?
Best bargain that I ever found. This will sound terrible, and this will sound like I'm joking. The best bargain I ever found was my wife. And the fact that when I started dating her, when we talked about getting married, my only job was playing guitar and singing very poorly for latte and tips in the coffee house. And I didn't have a job. And I asked her if she'd marry me. And I asked her in the most just goofy way on a dance floor. And it was spontaneous. And it opened up a conversation. And then I knew I needed to get her a ring. And I got a new job. And they had a sort of an online bulletin board at the workplace. It was actually a Usenet group at my workplace. This is back in 94, 95. And someone was selling an old wedding ring. And they had upgraded, or I don't know what it was. I thought it was kind of weird to get someone else's ring. But it was an engagement ring. Yeah. And I went and I bought this engagement ring. And it wasn't fancy and it didn't have a huge diamond. It was quite simple, but it was a great bargain. And there was something so simple in it. And the fact that this woman that I had only been dating for a short period of time agreed to marry me when I didn't even have a good job and agreed to accept this pitiful ring. And that woman has stuck by my side for 21 years, given me 5 children here on earth and several in heaven, and is the best friend I could ever possibly ask for, and is quite attractive, if I do say so myself, on top of all that. And the fact that I got her just for asking her to be my wife, that's the greatest bargain that I've ever had, or I ever could have. How about you? What's the greatest bargain you ever found?
Yeah, mine was going to be a lot more superficial than that.
2-for-1 DVDs at the stores.
Yeah, exactly. I did pick up a Logitech Harmony remote a couple of weeks ago for half price. So that was, it was 500 New Zealand dollars. And I got it for half price, so that was a really good deal.
That's a pretty good bargain.
Yeah, and that's been one of the best things I've bought in a long time, because we constantly lose the damn remotes. And being able to either use the Harmony remote or get my phone out and use the app, it just stops you from searching for the remote.
Well, that works.
Yeah. Right. To contrast your very, very simple proposal story, mine was in front of 400 people at a comedy show. My listeners have heard the story a few times already, but I know you haven't. But yeah, I managed to get hold of her favorite comedian. She was coming to New Zealand to do a show, and he managed to work the proposal into his show.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Who was the comedian?
Ed Byrne.
Yeah.
Irish comedian, yeah.
I think that they Netflix I'm almost positive, just added a new stand-up routine from him this week.
Ah.
I'm almost positive. Okay. Anyway, but you got him did he propose to your wife for you? Is that what it was?
What happened was that at halftime I disappeared. So when the show started, the seat next to her was empty, and she was going, "Where's he gone?" And Ed kind of goes, "Why is that seat empty?" And got her to say what my name was and everything. He got the audience to yell out, "Where are you, Dan?" And then I walk out from backstage and take the microphone from him and do my proposal routine.
Man, you can't set the bar that high. How can any other guy hope to meet that?
Yeah.
So for me, I lower the bar for every other guy that would take your story and we combine it with we're on a dance floor, and I just said, "Are you going to marry me or what?" And that was it.
Yeah, and we made the front page of the newspaper with that one.
That's awesome. I love that story.
Yeah, seeing yourself and like a full size photo of you on the front page of the newspaper is like nothing else.
And in that case, it's better to look good than to feel good, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and the photo was terrible. Because newspaper photographers seem to have a thing about not making good photos.
No, it's not the photographer. They actually have a filter they put on their cameras. It's called the crappy lens. Okay, so I like these lighter questions. These are fun. What is the? Oh wait, the same question came up.
Doubled up. That's interesting.
Ready?
There we go.
What's your most treasured piece of jewelry and why? I bet you I already know the answer to this one.
Yeah, my wedding ring.
Yeah.
I don't actually have it on either. I forgot to put it on this morning. Because my fingers don't like having it on all the time, so I have to take it off when I sleep. But yes, so it's actually a titanium ring. Something a little bit different.
Titanium. Why did you decide on titanium?
I guess it was just first I wanted tungsten, but tungsten's really heavy, and I work in IT, so typing all day with this big heavy thing on my fingers just wasn't going to happen. So titanium's kind of the other end of the lightness scale because it's super light, and I forget it's there because it's so light.
Huh. My ring, I really have to work to get it off because I have a fat knuckle already. And if you watch the video from when my wife and I got married, she actually says, "With this ring, when is she's trying to struggle to get the ring on my finger. She's trying to force that thing on there. And what's funny is over the years, it's almost acted like a corset on my finger in that when I do take it off, it's like my finger's indented now from 2 decades of wearing it, that there's an actual indentation. But I would say the same thing. My most treasured piece of jewelry is my ring. And going back to being cheap and broke when we were getting married.
Yeah.
So Jennifer's ring, that we had that engagement ring that she that we got secondhand, but then we designed this wedding band that it's kind of like it was 2 wedding bands that were then connected. Imagine like a letter U, and then the engagement ring would fit into the center of it. And so it was like right,
yeah.
And so, but we needed to have those 2 outside rings designed, and we went to a jeweler, and we were going to have my wedding band and then this wedding thing made. I hope I'm saying this correctly. I'll forget about Jennifer's ring. I'll just talk about my ring because I know that we did it for my ring, but now I can't remember for hers. But for mine, we went to her parents and my parents and my sister and her aunt, and basically just said to the family, "Hey, if you have any old pieces of gold jewelry that's just sitting at the bottom of your jewelry box that you're not using, can we have it?" And my wedding ring, my simple, plain gold wedding band, is made of gold from my mother-in-law and father-in-law and my parents and my sister and my wife's aunt. It was all melted down and combined together and was molded into my wedding ring. And so my ring is not just a symbol of the bond to my wife, but it goes deeper in that. And I wear a band of gold that weds me to her family as well.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Plus I was broke and didn't have any money, so I had to go beg for gold is what it was. "Hey buddy, you got any gold?" And
yeah, that's all right. You can stick with the more touching version of the story.
yeah. It was all planned out that way.
That's all right. We'll use it anyway. What photos do you cherish from the past, and where do you keep them now?
I have. I carry a Bible with me. It's just a New Testament Psalms, and it's small enough that it fits into like the inside jacket pocket of my winter coat. And I have 2 photos in there that I keep in my Bible, and one is not that old. It's only about 2.5 years old, but it's a photo of my father-in-law who died in August of 2015, and I keep a picture of him in my Bible. And then the other one is a picture. I'm 10 years old, and I'm shoveling food into my face at Christmas time, and you see one of my brothers next to me, and you see part of a couple of my other siblings, and you see my dad in there. But turned to the camera at the very front of the picture is this old lady with a bowl cut, really ugly glasses, and a pink leisure suit. And I keep that picture in my Bible of Philippians chapter 4. And that's my great aunt Lil. It was my mother's aunt, and she was a writer, and she was a painter, and she edited a magazine. And when my wife and I have 4 boys, and when our 5th child was going to be born, and we found out it was a daughter, it made total sense that we would name her Lily, after my great aunt Lil, who, you talk about, this is not a mental illness as much as it is just a degrading of the mind. But Aunt Lil had Alzheimer's disease, and that's a disease I would love to see eradicated. And to see her mind, this brilliant woman's mind, slip away over the course of several years into forgetfulness, and then just gone, and something that has always saddened me. But I treasure that picture of Aunt Lil. I don't look at a lot of pictures from my childhood anymore. I don't really enjoy it, quite honestly. I like looking through photos on my phone. I get lost in a lot of those photos. When I go back to look for something, it's like, I need that one picture for a project I'm working on, and I could lose an hour then when I start scrolling through. So it's the digital photos I don't mind as much, like over the past 10 years or however long I've had, iPhone or iPod or whatever. But from my childhood, I don't like going back and looking at them very often. But I love that photo of my great aunt Lil that I keep in my Bible. How about you? What photos do you cherish from your past, and where do you keep them now?
All the physical photos of me are still at my parents' place, back up north. So I don't see them that often, though we scanned a whole lot of them for the wedding. So that was interesting to see. Obviously it wasn't quite as long ago for me. Sorry, Greg. But all the rest of all the like recent ones are all digital, and I keep them on my computer and in the cloud, because not backing them up would be really stupid. Yeah. I think I have 3 or 4 copies of them, and I think that's one of the big problems we're going to have going forward, is that everyone needs to know how to back up.
Yeah, I agree. I have mine in several places now.
Yeah, not thinking of, people who have their houses burned down and they lose all these possessions. I don't think that's going to be as much of a problem going forward, because a lot of everyone's treasured possessions now are digital rather than physical. I don't think there's much in this house that I can think of, apart from a few things that have been, passed down to me from years and years of family. There's not a lot else that I would be too worried about losing. It would be more inconvenient than upsetting to lose.
I don't know. There's that remote control, man. You don't want to lose that.
Even the configuration for that's backed up into the cloud. So.
That's simultaneously impressive and scary.
Yeah, absolutely. The Internet of Things is both terrifying and incredibly useful. Yes, I think I've had a digital camera since about 2003. It was a really nasty 1 megapixel camera that cost me $400, and you'd fit 200 photos onto a 64 meg compact flash card. But they're still photos, and having them digital makes it so much easier to go back and look through them.
And it's a little bit easier to watch or to look at them with other people too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, given your earlier answer, I'm wondering if this might be an easy thing to guess as well. But are you a penny pincher or a big spender, and why?
I am both. I guess I tend to give the impression to people that I have lots and lots and lots of money, but it's because I make very specific decisions about where to spend my money. So in general life, clothes and furniture and food and everything like that, I'm definitely a penny pincher. I'm always looking for the bargain, and everything like that. But if I'm spending big, I can do it because I've penny pinched everywhere else. So I can go and buy a microphone, which is the one that you have, the SM7B. And I can go and do that and not have to worry about it because I've saved lots of money in other places. So I guess it's a strategic combination of both.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a hard time putting the penny pincher title on myself. I think there's been times where I was like that. I don't feel like I splurge a lot, but if there is something that I need, I just go get it,
Yeah.
and I don't think a lot about it. I would say that there are a few items that I'm a big spender on, and a few items I'm a penny pincher. Like I said, I enjoy painting. And this would have been a good answer for that earlier question of the bargain. Last September, the arts and crafts store that I go to get paints and canvases, they put all their canvases on sale for 70% off, and they do it once a year. And that was the weekend. And I went out and I bought 3 canvases that would have cost $100 each, just plain canvases. And I got them for $30 basically each.
Yeah.
And I was literally giggling as I was going back to my truck afterwards. When I had this cart full of these huge, I was like, I was so excited.
Yeah.
So for art supplies, I do tend to, I look for the sales on that, because I know that all this stuff always goes on sale, and I just have to be patient. And when it happens, I have to strike, and I try to stock up when that happens. And so in that case, I'm a penny pincher. There's other things that I don't buy often, but when I do, like I joked about scotch earlier, I will buy a very nice bottle of scotch, or like for my birthday was 3 months ago, and my wife got me a really nice bottle of scotch, and it's a Lagavulin 16 year, and I love it. It's so good. It's so good. I have had 3, not even full fingers of a drink, 3 tiny drinks out of this bottle since then. But to me, the money's worth it, but I'm going to make that sucker last as long as I possibly can. But it's just so good. I highly recommend it. So that was a good question.
All right. This will be our last question.
All right.
Go back to a starter question to wrap it off. On a scale of 1 to 10, how funny would you say you are?
Well, that's tough. I joke, but I don't think I'm overly funny. I would probably give myself a 5. I feel like I'm quick, but my jokes aren't necessarily funny. And they amuse the heck out of me. Yeah. But they don't necessarily amuse others. On a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of how funny I think I am to me, I'd say I'm a 7, 7 or 8. To others, yeah, solid 3 or 4. I get a lot of blank stares when I make jokes, and I'll walk away just chuckling. And I'm just like, that really amused me. And sometimes I have to say it again because it amused me so much, and others are just like, I just don't get it, whatever. How about you? On a scale of 1 to 10, how funny would you say you are?
I'm exactly the same as you. I find myself hilarious, but nobody else thinks so. Puns and dad jokes and everything are just so funny to me, and my sister-in-law loves them. My wife, not so much. And I was the MC for our wedding reception, so I had to come up with some jokes, and she was just shaking her head at me. Like I said to them, "Hi, I'm Dan, and I'll be your groom and MC for the evening." And I thought that was the funniest thing, but she disagreed.
And yet she still married you.
Yes, she tolerates my jokes. And now I don't even have to say them a lot of the time. She'll say something, or I'll say something, and she'll just look at me going, "I know what you're going to say next." It's like, right, well, I don't have to bother then. You've done it. You've got the effect for me, so I don't need to actually come up with anything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but most people don't think I'm as funny as I think I am, but that's okay.
It kind of goes back to the earlier question on peer pressure. Just just
Just
be
go with
satisfied with yourself, and everything else will be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, that was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for coming on, Greg.
I enjoyed the heck out of it, Dan. I really do. Thanks for your patience and waiting for me to finally align schedules and everything, because I hope it was worth the wait.
Absolutely. And I find that self-booking system makes life a lot easier because you can just go in and say, right, I'm available then. So I'll pick that one rather than hours of emails backwards and forwards trying to find a time.
Absolutely. It was great.
Thanks, Greg. If you'd like to be on the show, you can go to tcbi.nz/guest form and sign up. Anybody is welcome to sign up, and I would love to talk with you. And until next time, to our listeners, add one friend to one episode of this podcast with two open minds and see where it leads. Thanks for listening.
Now that was interesting. Bye-bye.